Yes, my name's Mickey Williams, M-I-C-K-E-Y, W-I-L-L-I-A-M-S, and I'm a captain with the Carlsbad Police Department.
Maybe we should just start at the beginning. Big commotion, reverse 911 out, guns, assault-style rifles out. What did you think you had at the beginning, and what did you determine you had?
Well, first off, the Carlsbad Police Department recognizes the concern that this type of incident causes the community, especially in a neighborhood like this incident occurred at. And like you had mentioned, the reverse 911s, all the communication from our communication staff out to the community requesting their assistance the night of this incident last week, asking them to stay in their houses, stay off the roads. The community reacted exceptionally well. They did everything they could to help us out with this case, and they have done so since the incident happened. And so first off, we want to say thank you for how they responded to us. The night last week when this shooting occurred, our officers responded out, and we found, like you know, one person that had been shot. Officers were able to extract that person to a safe location and get them medical aid. And then, as you're aware, it took hours for our SWAT team to be able to secure the area where we thought their gunman may still be, so that our investigators could process the scene thoroughly that morning. After the scene was secured by our SWAT team and investigators took their time to carefully process the scene, they've worked tirelessly through the last week to try to examine the evidence and figure out what happened to provide some answers to the community.
The car that was in the scene, was that the suspect's car or someone else's car or the victim's car?
I don't know what's...
The victim's car. He was shot in. He was in his car, correct?
No.
Take us through what actually happened.
What we have that we know happened at this point is that the victim was drawn to the location by some sort of telephone call that caused the victim to go to the scene where the shooting occurred. Once the victim showed up at the scene, the victim was shot once in the torso. It was a serious wound, and immediately 911 calls came into our dispatch center. We sent officers out. They were able to find the victim who had been shot and a companion of the victim who was with the victim but not shot, and was able to render aid to the victim, identify where the shooting occurred, and then lock down the crime scene, which then took several hours with our SWAT team to secure to make sure the shooter wasn't still there. The shooter had fled prior to the police arrival.
The press release that we read indicated that he was drawn there by the shooter. A phone call was actually from the shooter. Is that accurate?
That's what we believe at this point, yes.
Okay. So what was the relationship between the victim and the shooter that they would meet in a dark location at night like that?
The connection appears to be, there's two suspects in this case, Miss Lovejoy and Mr. McDavid. The relationship appears to be between Mr. McDavid and Miss Lovejoy. They had a relationship in some fashion related to shooting guns at a shooting range. The victim is the spouse, former spouse of Miss Lovejoy. So there doesn't appear to be a connection between Mr. McDavid and the victim. It appears to be a mutual connection with Miss Lovejoy.
Did an officer actually transport the victim to Scripps La Jolla?
No. The officer actually transported the victim to Scripps Encinitas Hospital.
But I'm sorry, yeah, to clarify, I was there that night, so I'm just trying to clarify what I heard. So at that point, because it was an active shooter situation, you did not allow the ambulance to come in, so the officer went ahead and transported the victim?
Yes, it was the officer's discretion at that point, based on the circumstances that he had at that moment. He believed that there was a person armed with potentially a long gun, a rifle, that might have been on high ground, that had already shot one person and may desire to shoot others. And the officer felt that the best thing that officer could do to get the victim immediate medical care was to put him into the patrol car and transport him directly to the hospital himself. And that's what he did. He took him to Scripps Encinitas Hospital.
Have you recovered the rifle?
We don't know if we have or not.
But you recovered guns from his Fallbrook home, the suspect's Fallbrook home?
There are guns that have been recovered, yes. We just don't know if any of the guns recovered are the gun that was used in this case.
Were the guns recovered from the shooting range where he worked?
Not to my knowledge.
What is the name of our victim, to clarify?
At this point, I'm not going to divulge the name of the victim,
okay,
for obvious reasons.
What can you tell us about his injuries, though?
Very serious torso injury.
Well, I mean now, how's he doing? What's going on with the victim?
He's recovering. As far as his medical status, I'm not sure, but he is expected to survive and recover.
Can you tell us how the victim has assisted officers in getting to where we are now, to the arrest? What information was he able to give you?
As far as the specific evidence that led us to the suspects, I don't want to get into the specifics because the investigation's still ongoing. The detectives are still working this case day and night to try to figure out exactly what happened and to secure all relevant evidence. So at this point, I don't want to provide partial glimpses of evidence that I may not completely understand or that may jeopardize the case. However, based on the investigation that's been going on tirelessly since last week by our investigators, they've established probable cause to arrest Ms. Lovejoy and Mr. McDavid for attempted murder and conspiracy to commit attempted murder.
What was the relationship between the two suspects? Would you call this a murder for hire scheme, or would you call this a love triangle?
I don't know of any evidence to support a love triangle. I do believe that there's evidence that financial gain may have influenced Mr. McDavid.
Hang on, okay, there you go.
What type of weapon was used?
Don't know at this time.
Are you able to at least tell the difference? Able to tell us if it was a long gun versus a handgun, short gun?
No, I can't at this point tell you for sure.
If it is murder for hire, as it appears to investigators, obviously, this suspect, has he been involved in such schemes in the past that you're aware of? Does he have a criminal record of any sort that you could share with us?
At this point, I don't believe it would be appropriate to share my understanding of a person's criminal history at this point because I don't understand it thoroughly. So I'm not going to comment on either of the suspects' criminal history at this point.
One thing, if you could clear up for me, I thought you said that Mrs. Lovejoy, one of the suspects, and her, is it an estranged husband, meaning they're in the middle of a divorce, or they're actually divorced?
My understanding is they are separated. Whether they've legally completed their divorce or not, I'm not sure.
Okay. Was Ms. Lovejoy in the area the night of the shooting?
We believe. I'm sorry. I believe we do believe Ms. Lovejoy was in the area at the time of the shooting.
And is it believed that that the two suspects left that area in a vehicle, or did they live nearby? One of them lived nearby.
As far as how they fled the scene, investigators are not sure at this point.
Do you think that they were in the same vehicle when he did the firing?
I couldn't tell you.
Or that she did the firing, maybe?
I couldn't tell you. I don't believe the shooter was inside a vehicle at the time of the shooting.
Where are the suspects now? They may have been said in the press release. I don't remember reading it. Are they incarcerated or?
Yes, they've been transported and booked into Vista Detention Facility.
Okay. You got them today? No problems with the arrest?
Miss Lovejoy was under surveillance by our investigators yesterday evening, and at about 6:45 p.m., officers conducted a traffic stop on her at Olga and Alicante in the city of Carlsbad, and she was taken into custody without incident. Mr. McDavid was stopped via a traffic stop near the area of Highway 395 and the 15 freeway out in Fallbrook, and was taken into custody without incident.
Do you have any other supporting evidence that you might share with us, maybe what led up to this that would make Ms. Lovejoy want her husband dead?
We're not at this point going to speculate as to what the motive was, other than we're confident that the intent was to kill the victim. But regardless, regarding the actual motive, we're not going to speculate at this time.
Can you clarify whether the victim was in a vehicle when he was shot? There was a vehicle that was around there that had blood on the seat and was part of this investigation. I didn't actually see it because I was kept so far back, but by daybreak when the perimeter shrunk, we were able to move into exactly where the shooting had taken place, and it was around a vehicle. So can you, whose car was that? His?
The victim was associated with a vehicle at the time he was shot. Whether he was actually in the vehicle or outside the vehicle when the bullet struck him, I couldn't tell you for sure. I know after he was shot, he did enter a vehicle or was inside a vehicle. Who the owner of that vehicle is, I couldn't tell you.
And was he with a male friend?
Yes.
I was going to say the other person in the car, it wasn't a girlfriend, it was a male friend.
My understanding was a male friend.
And any more identity on him, name, or the relationship between those two, whether confidant or priest or?
Not that I could tell you at this point. I don't know.
And also, lastly, for me, where exactly did the shooting take place?
The shooting occurred on Avenida Soledad near a preserve entrance near the intersection of Rancho Santa Fe Road.
There's kind of a fire road there or something?
In that vicinity, yes.
Okay, and then later there was there clothing or whatnot found a ways away from the car in reference to the shooter?
At this point, I'm not going to discuss the specific evidence that was found at the crime scene. I think it would, for the reasons why I told you earlier, it would be improper for me to do that.
Yeah, quick question. Yeah, the shooter and the victim, they're residents of, are they residents of Carlsbad?
I'm not going to give you any information regarding the victim for obvious reasons. The suspect, Miss Lovejoy, is a resident of the city of Carlsbad.
Okay. Do Lovejoy and the victim have children?
I'm not sure.
Were there any calls, any 911 calls that came in from either the suspect's home or the victim's home leading up to this that might indicate some kind of domestic disturbance between the two or domestic issues between the two that you could share with us?
None that I know of.
And can you do ages of all three?
I don't know off the top of my head. I believe they were in the written press release for the two suspects.
Okay. You're not looking for any other suspects?
At this point, we don't have any reason to believe that any other suspects are outstanding, but the investigation is far from over. We're going to continue to work it, and if we identify any people that we believe may have been involved in this that we haven't identified up to this point, we'll work just as hard as we have worked this last week to find them and bring them to justice.
Anything else you'd like to stress or add, or did we miss anything?
No, I think it's important, though, just as we praise the community for how they responded to us and have helped us, the work that the investigators and that our SWAT team has done on this case for the last week is remarkable. There's a lot of people that haven't been home in the last week for many hours, and it's because of how important this case is to the Carlsbad PD.
Thank you.
Cap, thanks.